welcome to What Are You Reading, a podcast with the Public Library of Mount Vernon in Knox County. My name is Christy.
And I'm Katie.
And today we decided to do something a little bit spooky in celebration of October. I picked the first collection of Sandman by Neil Gaiman. What did you pick?
So, I have a big stack of books.
You do?
So, I did, the one I'm going to talk about is Gwendy's Button Box, which is by Stephen King and Richard Chizmar. And it's part of a trilogy, as you can see. And the third one came out in March. So, it's pretty new. For some reason, the second one is only by Richard Chizmar, so it's not shelved with the other ones.
Yeah, so that's a little complicated. For us as librarians to kind of make sure that everything kind of stays together or help you find it when that happens in a series. I've been really excited to talk about Sandman for a while, especially because Netflix picked up the show. So, and that's something that Neil Gaiman has been working on for a very long time, trying to get the right house to produce it, trying to get the right people to work on the project because it's so close to his heart. So I thought this was the perfect time with the show dropping for us to talk about it.
Yeah, and I don't know if you mentioned it or not. I might not have been paying attention. It's a graphic novel series.
Oh, yeah. I didn't mention
that. For those that...
and I did want to point out, too, that we have it... So we do have the physical copies here at the library, but I've been reading it on my phone on Hoopla. And of course, that way it is available to everybody. So if you all want to run out and read it right now, and we only have 1 or 2 copies here at the library, you can pick it up on Hoopla. And reading a graphic novel on your device, at first I was like, oh, I don't know if I'm going to like this. But there is something about seeing it through your phone's resolution where I have to say the illustrations were like so eye-catching through the screen on my phone. Not that these aren't, but I'll show you guys like a little glimpse of the color scheme and stuff like that. So as you can see, like it's beautiful artwork. But I will say that it really definitely pops on the device. So I'm one of those people, though, that I will listen to an audiobook and then read the physical at the same time. I feel like it gives you a really interesting and unique experience. So this is one of those things that it's really fun to kind of like compare, especially if you find a specific panel that you think is really cool. See what it looks like in like Ultra HD on your phone or your tablet, too.
Yeah, cool.
And I'm going to specifically talk about just Volume 1, because Volume 1 is issues 1 through 8. And that just so happens to be the primary source material that we have for Season 1 of the Netflix show. So if any of you out there that are listening have already watched or you're interested in watching, they did a really good job of being able to like kind of read along. And there were some subtle changes, but things that I thought were pretty good changes. We have... So we're in the DC universe. I need to mention that too, because we're going to have name drops like John Constantine, if you guys are familiar with him at all. Arkham Asylum. We have some characters that come in and out from there. But we open up Sandman with a secret magic occult society who is trying to harness death. So they finally got all of these pieces for this spell, and they perform it, accidentally summon Dream, Death's brother. So they don't capture her, but they don't know that. So at first, when they capture him and trap him in this bubble type thing, they take his totems, which he's the Sandman. So he has his bag of dust. He wears a helm, which is like a mask. It almost looks like a gas mask. And then he also carries a ruby that we later find out is very important. Without those things, he's kind of powerless and being trapped in this occult, spell bubble he is trapped for 72 years.
Mm-hmm.
And because of this, we have a big portion of the population that are kind of the sleeping dead. So they are trapped in their dream world, reliving these nightmares over and over again.
Yeah. Yeah. So like a dark Sleeping Beauty type thing,
Definitely.
but with many people.
Yes.
And I have seen the show, but haven't read the graphic novels yet. Is there the woman who she actually gets pregnant and has a baby and all of that, and then wakes up when she's old?
Mm-hmm.
Is that something that happens in the
books? Yes. And they did, like I said, they did stay pretty true to what really happens. We do get a little bit more information on a couple other characters. Like there's a boy that is always dreaming about climbing through the clouds.
Okay.
And when dreams captured, he starts falling through the clouds, and he's stuck in this loop of falling, and it's absolutely terrifying. Like, I've had those dreams where I wake up and I'm falling and I'm like, oh my gosh. But to never wake up, to just be continuously falling.
Yeah, for 70 plus
72
years.
Yeah. If his body survived through that length of time. So a lot of that was pulled directly from the source material.
Okay.
There's also an infamous scene where something happens where Dream confronts someone that has something of his, one of the totems. And this person is gifted, also has the ruby, so it intensifies their powers. And they're able to control people and get them to do what they want. And his whole goal is to show the depravity of humanity. And it is a hot button issue with the show because it is a little bit, no, I won't say a little bit, I'll be honest, it's graphic.
It's, very graphic.
There's, what we would call, if we're using like TikTok terms, like unaliving. So there's murder, there's suicide, that happens utilizing Dream's tools. Obviously that's not what he does. He's the Sandman. He's to regulate our dreams and our sleep cycles, but it just goes to show that having those things fall into the wrong hands, especially someone who has escaped Arkham Asylum, is deadly. So the first season, like I said, close to ending with the first Preludes and Nocturnes is the first issue. Or the first volume of collected issues. And I think they did a really good job of staying pretty close to that time frame. So the one that I brought down here is actually number 10. But we have them upstairs. So like I said, if you want to come check these out, absolutely can. It's also available on Hoopla. So anybody can download it and read along with us and watch the show and see what you think.
Yeah, and probably get a little more detail reading the books.
Yeah, absolutely. Fills in all of those blanks because if you like Neil Gaiman, you know that his writing is so approachable, but there are so many huge themes and so many philosophical elements that you might want to dive deeper into that the show just literally doesn't have time for. And that's what these do such a great job of that, even though they're graphic novels. So you don't have these huge text explanations, but you're still able to make such a complete picture with both the show and
that's
novel.
The best part of graphic novels is because there are pictures and text. You can get so much more in such a small space.
Yes, definitely. There were so many elements that I liked about the show, so I'm really excited. I believe it got picked up for season 2, so we'll be seeing a lot more of this story, and I'm glad people are getting excited about it. So I hope you guys pick it up. It's such like a, what am I gonna say? Like, I think it's perfect for like the Halloween season, stuff like that, because it's so dark and a little ominous, but there's humor because it's Gaiman, so he's great at weaving those little jokes in with the macabre. So it is DC, so it is very dark, but there is, it's not like Batman where it's all dark. There's moments of light. We meet like the gargoyle. There's something to look forward to. He's absolutely adorable. He's like this big lumping dog type thing, but he looks like a gargoyle. And he's just such this little ray of light that helps Dream get back home. We also have Dream's personal librarian, who is fantastic, such a great character. So there's so many things that are so fun to dive into. This world is so well fleshed out.
Oh, yeah.
That, you can just slide right into the Dream world.
Yeah.
Well, kind of switching gears a little bit, because this could get dark.
Yes, this is also, this series it's very hard to describe to a certain extent, because there is a constant build-up, but there, especially with the first 2 books, the very end, there's that, like jump scare, horrific scene, and then the book is over. So, which my biggest complaint, I guess, with Gwendy's button box is it's too short.
Yeah, that looks very small for an introduction.
Yeah. So I think it's like 160 pages, and kind of, it's not a graphic novel, but it does have, at random times, these pencil drawings.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, like this one's fairly innocuous. There's one in the 3rd book especially that, like, haunts me now.
Oh, no.
So, Gwendy Peterson is our main character. Her parents couldn't decide on a name. They wanted to go with Gwen or Wendy from Peter Pan. Gwendy or Gwendolyn was a family name, so they smushed them together. And she is an early to mid teenager in the first book, and she winds up in her 60s by the 3rd book. So we're following Gwendy pretty much through most of her life. She's a little chubby, so she runs they call them the suicide stairs. So she runs the suicide stairs every day, couple of times a day, trying to get in shape because someone's picking on her at school. And she meets I forget his first name, but this guy with the bowler hat, his last name is Ferris, and he's like, I need you to watch this box for me. And it's a little wood box, probably about like that big. I pictured it kind of typewriter size. And it has 8 buttons, 3 sets of pairs, and then a button at the top and a button at the bottom. They're all different colors. And then there are 2 switches, one on either side. So the buttons, the top button is red, and it kind of grants wishes, which, if you've ever seen Once Upon a Time, you realize that wishes come at a price. So Gwendy finds that out the hard way. Then the pairs of buttons, each button is for a continent.
Okay.
So if you press that button, something awful will happen to that continent, and we do not know what. And Ferris does not go into detail. He's like, we'll talk about it later, but they never do.
Oh, wow.
And then the black button, there's a black button at the very bottom, which Gwendy calls the cancer button. So I think it's it's the doomsday button. And then one switch, when you flip the switch, gives these little chocolates. And they are intricately carved. They're of animals, and it's never the same animal twice. And when you eat it, things happen. So Gwendy starts eating one a day, and it curbs her appetite, and she starts losing weight and getting energy without too much changing her habits. I mean, other than eating smaller portions. And then the one on the right gives you a silver dollar from the 19th century, which is about $600 in current currency. So she can use both of those. She can use the buttons, but he's like, don't use the buttons. And that's where things start to get complicated because she's finding that her life is, regardless of how she tries, something bad always comes when she hits the red button.
Mm-hmm.
For example, she tests it, and I think this took place in the 70s, so we're like in the 70s and 80s. And she picked what she thought was a remote area, and she pressed the red button to kind of make it go poof. And the Jonesville massacre happened.
Oh, wow.
So, and she thought she didn't realize that there were people. And she actually tries it again so that she can prove to someone that the button box works. And the same thing happens. She thinks no one's there. Someone's there, and it kills someone. And by the time we get to the third book, bad things are happening to both Ferris and Gwendy because they've been in contact with the button box for so long.
Wow.
Yeah.
Does Ferris have to pass the box off, or
that's where I'm a little confused. I think he is the keeper of the box, and I'm wondering if he has to pass it off because so by the third book the button box has gained so much power that like Dreams Ruby can make people do things that they don't want to do. So I'm wondering if that's why Ferris has to pass it off periodically because he needs a break.
Yeah.
Because you can only resist for so long. And the reason he keeps giving it back to Gwendy is because she is a rock star. She's able to resist it so much, which is why it gets really scary by the third book because even she is starting to fall prey to the button box.
Wow.
Yeah.
It does sound very, very King. Like,
yes,
you can
it is
hear
very,
that.
Yes. I haven't read Richard Chizmar before.
I haven't either.
But yeah, definitely, and definitely not a traditional horror story from Stephen King, but definitely one of his, I don't know what's going on and something weird is happening. One of the things that I really liked, but to a certain extent frustrated me, is the books take place in Castle Rock, which is well known in the King universe. And they also talk about Derry, which is another town in the King universe, and he name drops other things from his other books, like mentioning a Saint Bernard that killed the police force.
Yeah.
And I think that took place in Derry. But yeah, like, these poor towns that have had all these things happen to it. It comes up quite a bit. So I feel like there probably were a lot more hints, but because I don't read the scary Stephen King's, I don't know. And they also mention Shawshank. So
that's another show tie-in with Castle Rock on Hulu. I wonder, which I haven't watched all of it yet, but I do know that there's Misery references. It references Carrie references. Christine references, that kind of thing in that show. So I wonder if there's a Gwendy. I have to watch.
There probably is.
Yeah.
And I also asked you off camera, so we finally find out what's going on in the third book. So stick it out. The third book is my favorite. And it's like some kind of alien race is trying to destroy a tower. So I asked you before, I feel like that's a Gunslinger series reference, because that's the only series of books that I know that have towers in it.
Yeah.
And I feel like everything that King does is in the same universe.
Yeah, I think there's so much crossover because we have kind of that alien race that and spoiler alert, guys, I'm gonna kind of out something here. Pennywise the dancing clown, is a god, a demigod, that is a part of this like alien type universe where we have more of like the indigenous Native American lore of the turtle god. And so there's this really huge system that King has made of like aliens, gods that have come to Earth. Or some of his other like gunslinger other universes and wreak havoc. So
yeah,
I definitely think there's connections there because he doesn't do anything just off the cuff,
Yeah, and it makes me wonder if there is a connection between Pennywise and these beings that we never really get a good look at.
Yeah, because we see the deadlights. Kind of with Pennywise, we see that with Dr. Sleep, so that ability to kind of like draw souls in, and the kids and it call it the deadlights because they see that like the glow, in Pennywise in his mouth and then in Dr. Sleep in the eyes. So yeah, I think that there's connections there throughout his universe, so. I'm a huge King fan. Used to have the book discussion and stuff like that. We covered quite a few. I think we did about 12 books. And you've read a lot of his works like 11/22/63. What was the latest one with the Hitman?
Billy Summers.
Oh, yeah, Billy Summers.
I've read The Institute. So I look for the ones that it's okay if weird things happen, but not the like I have to read it with the lights on. Kind of thing. And I have read The Shining. I was coerced for school.
Oh yeah.
So that's the only like quintessential King book that I have read, and that's when it was the first book I read, and I was like, oh, this Stephen King guy, he is an amazing writer.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I was like, oh, he writes horror. That can't possibly be any good. And I was really surprised, and that led to 11/22/63, which led to The Institute, which led to the Gwendy trilogy.
I love that you've picked up on King because I'm the spooky one, So I love that he reaches everybody. It's like you love to read historical fiction, and you do read just about everything. But there's a little bit of King for everybody.
Yes, he is not just a horror writer.
Yeah.
I think it's safe to say that there is something otherworldly in all of his books. But it's not always horror.
Yeah. It's such a cool thing that I think Gaiman and King both have, where we can be in the macabre, but we can still have humor, we can still have philosophy, we can still have all of these like huge overarching themes.
Yes, that are so intricately put together.
Definitely. So these are two authors that we highly recommend all year round, but especially for spooky season. Stop in, check out what we've got. We've got tons of stuff on the shelf, tons of stuff for Hoopla and Libby. And if you have any questions, come over and ask us because, we love to give recommendations. So just let us know and we'll guide you in the right direction. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us for another podcast. Look for us next month. Subscribe, all that good stuff, and we'll see you then. Bye.
Bye.